So one of the things we want to do is to give kids as much piece of the action as possible, especially those kids who are the strong-willed, the ones who want to be in control. Most, I would guess, when you say most of the behavior problems that come in class are from kids who want control. They want to be the ones that are calling the shots in whatever way that looks like. And so my encouragement to teachers and to parents is, okay, give kids as much control as you possibly can. Don't take it away from them, because if you take control away from somebody, what are they liable to do? Yeah, they're a fight to get it back. I remember I was at a church that shall remain nameless, that the leadership and I were not particularly seeing eye to eye on some things. And so I remember sitting in that meeting, and it was as if they were taking one of my paychecks and just kind of waving it like this in front of me. And their statement was something to the effect of, if you don't learn to do things our way, we can make this disappear. And I remember at that moment feeling this knot in my stomach, and my head started hurting, and I got thinking, they're right. They've got all the control. Did not help our relationship any, but I said, yeah, they're the ones with all the control. How do you respond to something like that? Well, what we want to do is give kids as much of the control as we possibly can, but let's give them control on our terms. And so the first thing that we're going to look at is this idea of giving choices within limits. To give kids as many choices in class as we possibly can so that they feel a certain amount of the control, that they have ownership of what's going on there. Now, there are some rules to giving choices within limits. Number one, when you give a choice, you always want to give a choice that's going to make you deliriously happy. All right?
I love delirious.
Yeah, don't give choices you're not happy with, because if you give a choice that you're not happy with, guess which one the child's going to pick?
Oh, yeah.
Every single time. If you say, would you rather sit in your seat or run in circles around the room? That's your choice. Now, if both of those make you deliriously happy, you just go right ahead. And I can tell you which one they're going to pick. All right, so only give choices that make you deliriously happy. Number two, only give two choices. Two choices will cause a kid's head to work long enough that you don't need to make yourself harder, making more than that. Now, what if a child comes up with a third choice? Say, you may sit in a chair or sit on the carpet. Which one?
As long as you're okay with it.
Well, remember, choices within limits, and you want them to help them learn to live within boundaries. So they come up with the third choice. They say, no, I want to stand over here and jump up and down. You're not going to get into a big argument with them. You just one line.
That's not a choice for today, maybe next time.
Yeah, and you even want to do it even shorter than that. What were the choices? What were the choices? What were the choices? What were the choices? Now, you're going to get two choices, and you're not going to give them a long time to figure it out. All right, maybe 3 to 5 seconds, something like that. Not give them 10. Now, you're not going to tell them that, but you're going to think to yourself, all right, I'm going to give them this amount of time. Would you like to sit there or sit here? And they just, they will drag it out. It says, oh, I tell you what, since you couldn't make a choice, sit down here on the carpet next to me. I'll give you another chance to choose later on. Thank you for understanding. But I know it's just so sad, but because you couldn't choose, you're going to sit right here with me right now, and then I'll give you another choice in a little while. All right, so choices that make you deliriously happy, only two choices. Don't stress yourself out making more choices than that. Give them just amount of time and they'll learn pretty quickly that you're only going to give them this amount of time before you say, oh, I'm sorry, it's my turn to make this choice. You'll be able to do it later on. Now, is it important for you to be boss every once in a while?
Yeah.
Sure it is. It's okay to be a boss.
We are the boss.
Especially if it's a situation where a child's behavior is hurting another child. If it's a safety issue, a security issue, something like that, or it's just something that's just the way you want it right now. The nice thing about that is if you give little bitty choices all along the way, they don't have to be big choices. They can be just little bitty choices. What kind of choices could you make in a Bible class?
Or you should.
Okay, would you like to sit this chair, this chair? Other choices could you
What
get?
color crayon?
You want this color or this color? You want to get your crayons out of this bucket or this bucket? What other choices could you get?
Which puzzle do you?
You want to do this puzzle or this puzzle? Do you want to read this book or this book? Do you want to draw a picture on blue paper or pink paper? What you want to do is come up with as many different choices as you possibly can, because you can keep the kids busy picking so many different choices. They ain't got time to think about ways to get in trouble. Then when it comes time for you to be boss, then it sounds something like this. Everyone line up at the door, but I don't want to do it. Now, wait a minute. Haven't y'all been making all the choices today? I get to make a choice every once in a while. Thank you for understanding. Go get by the door. And you get to be boss. See, where we get the trouble is whenever kids don't feel like they've got a piece of the action when they're not a part of it. And so you give as many different choices all along the way as you can. So even as you're thinking of what are we going to do in class today? What are some of the different choices I could give, rather than say, you do this, you do this, you do this? Because as soon as I'm telling kids what they have to do, they will show me what they're not going to do. But if I give them some choices, one of the things that you'll find is you can get kids, you keep kids in a thinking mode. When you start telling a child what they must do, then watch their eyes. The eyes will tell you everything, because they'll get fiery and they'll say, the game is on, make me. But when you give a choice, if you watch, sometimes the kids' eyes, they'll look up, then they'll look back. They'll look up and look back. And then they'll choose a choice. When I start going up like this, you know they're thinking. So give as many of those choices as you can. Then you might use these magic phrases for some of the choices. Would you rather this or that? What would be best for you? This or that. See, I really like that one, because it helps get a kid into the thinking mode of, I got choices to make and I want to make choices that are best for me. What would help you most? This or this? Or you could say, feel free to, and give a couple of choices. Just give as many different choices during a Bible class time as you possibly can. And that'll keep those kids thinking about things they can do, rather than trying to figure out ways to stop doing things. Thoughts, questions about choices? Would you rather talk about this some more or go on to the next topic?
On to the next topic.
Oh, okay. See what I did there? See what
I didn't have
there?
to bounce my eyes up.
No, you didn't. That's right. Again, nothing really difficult. Now, this next one is the one that you were keying in on earlier, that you didn't realize what you were doing, or maybe you did and you just, you told me about it. And that's what's called enforceable statements. I have learned that you can pretty well run life on enforceable statements. If you learn this as a parent or grandparent, you can run your house on enforceable statements. If you learn how to do this in a classroom, you can pretty well run the classroom in enforceable statements. Remember, the only one that you can control is yourself. And so what you want to do is arrange situations where you let the kids know, this is what I'm going to do. This is what you are invited to do. Here's what I'm going to do. Here's what you have a choice to do. Now, we'll talk about if the child makes a different choice that is not correct, is not a good choice. Then you want to arrange a situation where they wish they had picked a different choice, but that's another matter. Now, in this case, an enforceable statement says, this is what I'm going to do. This is what you are welcome to do. So an enforceable statement says something like this. I will read this story as soon as voices are quiet and ears are ready for listening. Rather than saying, all right, get quiet, everybody get down, come on, get down off of the table. No, I'll be happy to read this story when everyone is sitting on the carpet and your eyes are up here and your ears are listening. It tells them what I'm going to do, and I can live by that, can't I? I can make that happen. If I tell somebody, sit down, it's going to be hard to get them to do that. So whenever I tell somebody what they're going to do, their brain's going to come up with all sorts of reasons why they can't. But if I tell them what I'm going to do, it tells them what they're willing to do. I call on children who have their hands raised. I pick children who are sitting on the carpet to have a turn. It starts with the I statement. I am happy to do this. I will be willing to do this. I'm going to, not always like this one. Markers that write on paper may stay out of the box. Markers that write on anything else must go back in the box. Or I'm happy for you to use markers as long as they're being written on paper. Something like those who follow the rules are welcome to play the game. I'll be happy for you to talk with your friend as long as I hear quiet voices and you're working on the project. This is one of the more favorite. You got those kids. Does anybody in here get as irritated about whining as I do? You know, the whiner, just how they go. I can really drive Angela crazy when they start whining like this. I never get my way, but at least it makes her unhappy like me. Don't you just love whiners? Or how about those that just want to argue?
I have a lawyer in my class.
Yeah, they just want to argue.
Or pout.
Oh, pout.
Yeah, as long as you pout quietly.
Yeah.
See, this is for these behaviors that you know are coming. Yeah, I mean, you just know they're coming. And you get the whiner, they come, oh, no. Well, here's the enforceable statement. My ears can't hear whining. Or, I'll be happy to talk with you as soon as your voice is as calm as mine is. Now, it's helpful to keep it calm like that. It doesn't work very well, so I'll be happy to talk with you as soon as your voice is calm like mine is.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that. What you're doing is you're not only setting boundaries about saying, this is what I'm going to do and this is what you're welcome to do, but it's also modeling. It's modeling for kids good behavior and good choices. Feel free to do this. I am happy to do this when. So we've had several situations. The child that throws tantrums. You love the children that they just sit on the floor and they just start kicking and screaming and stuff like that. Now, you know, one option is just to kind of step over them and just continue to do your thing. Well, that is one. Sometimes that's not easy to do in a Bible classroom, especially if it's too small. So what would be the enforceable statement?
I am going to play this fun game. You're welcome to join me
Yeah,
when you're ready.
yeah. When you're no longer throwing a tantrum. I'll be happy for you to do this with me when you're no longer throwing a tantrum. Yeah. The really fun one, because that'll work. That will work when the child's motivated. Now you gotta make sure it looks fun. That game looks fun. But the other the statement that we sometimes use with kids is tantrums don't work with me. And if you will try that with a child that loves to throw tantrums, watch them look at you and say, they don't? Kids know what they're doing.
Everybody else.
Yeah, it works for everybody else in my life. It doesn't with you. The statement, my
Does it work
ears.
even better with, aw.
It does. Oh man, that is so sad. But tantrums don't work with me. Yeah, get that empathetic statement in there. That's very good. Oh man, you know, my ears don't hear whining. And you go talk to somebody else. And as soon as their voice becomes calm and their voice becomes reasonable, be sure and listen. See, that's the thing. Be sure you do what you said they'll do. But you say, my ears don't hear whining. Pretty soon a kid will stop whining because they want your attention. They want to get something. They want to fill a need. So a good behavior technique is just this enforceable statement. I'm happy to do this. Feel free to do this for you when this takes place. We've used the my ears don't hear whining, and it is so funny to see kids just all of a sudden talk normal. I mean, it's just don't even have to tell them, stop whining. No, they'll just start talking to you like a normal child. You know, everything's going fine. The arguing, my ears don't hear arguing. Or you can try it this way. I love you too much to argue. Just a one-liner. I love you too much to argue. Oh, I love you too much to argue. Now, they may want to keep trying, but you just keep using it over and over again. I love you too much to argue. I love you too. How many times do you have to do that before a kid finally figures out they're not going to be able to argue with you?
Depends on how bored they are.
That's true. Most kids 2 or 3 times. The really good ones, about 5 or 6. And then they say, that lady's just crazy. I'm not gonna talk to her anymore. Love you too much to argue. My ears can't hear arguing. I'll be happy to talk with you as soon as your voice is as calm as mine. I would encourage you to really give enforceful statements a try. In fact, you can try it on your spouse tonight. I'll be glad to get your dinner when you have the lawn mowed. I'll be happy to get your dessert whenever the trash has been taken out. Now, it works really good as long as your spouse does not know love and logic, because Angela tries it on me all the time. And I say, you stop love and logicking me. What you will also find is if you're doing it well, kids will do it back to you.
Yes, they'll go, "Aw, you got a ticket. You made a bad choice."
Oh, man. I remember with our daughter, she was 4, I think. And I came home after, it was a pretty busy day that day. And I came home and she came up to me, Daddy, are you going to take us to McDonald's or Burger King tonight? And Angela was so shocked because we didn't go out to eat very much. But I said, well, let's go to McDonald's.
It's neither.
Yeah, I said, that doesn't work with me. That's for me to use with you. But it was okay, because what you want them to do is learn those good behaviors. You want them to understand life is about making choices. You want this or do you want this? You want this way, you want this way.
Great with kids when they get older.
Exactly. And then I'll be happy to do this or do that. Any thoughts, questions about enforceable statements? Now, the fact of the matter is there are times when behavior's got to be corrected. What do you do then? The child that says, I'm not going to do that. I don't care what you say to me. Or I don't care what you think. See, that's why developing those good relationships come first. Because if you have a child that they just don't care if you want this or you want that, or that you feel free to, or anything, then they're not going to do anything for you. And so this has been a progression. You got to have the good positive relationship first. You got to have the good environment around them next. You got to have good cues around them to help them manage their own behavior next. So whenever you get to this point, then you actually have that relationship with them where it's really would hurt them to disappoint you as much as it does you. Because if they just don't care, then they're not going to do anything.
When I had a classroom, I had 30 kids at the time. This was at South Plains Church of Christ. I had a lot of kids from the Children's Home and Boys Ranch that were coming. Nope, again, as long as you're not disturbing anybody, you can do whatever, because I had kids who were completely shut down. They could not communicate. They just sat there, never made eye contact, but they didn't bother anybody. They were like, why don't they have to do something? Like, nobody has to do anything in here. It's a choice. You get to be here. And I only have 2 rules, follow directions and respect yourself and others. It's the do right and be sweet, but a little more explained. And everything else was procedures. But I had some kids, I told them, informed them that I didn't get paid to be there. And they were so shocked I was not paid to be there. I said, and so, I'd like to have fun in this class, but if I'm not having fun, you're not having fun either. And they were like, oh, wow. But then it was also a choice that you got to be here, and anybody who didn't want to be here, they didn't have to. They could spend quality time with their parents or whoever brought them. And I knew that their parents would love to spend quality time with them. And they could sit together in their parents' class and bond. And usually, I never had anybody after they heard that one try me on it, except for one kid. And they were like, well, I don't want to be here. And I can walk myself to my parents. And I was like, no. I'm going to take you, and I'm going to get the elder that's outside here in the classroom to take over my class, and we'll go talk to your mom and dad and tell them how much you want to spend time with them. And he's like, well, no, I think I've changed my mind. I choose to be here. And I was like, well, are you sure? Because I'm sure they'd love to be with you, and I don't mind explaining it to them, and they'll be fine with it. And no, I don't want to. I want to stay here. So I just gave them a choice. They could be in class or not. They don't have to be there. It's a choice.
Choices are powerful. If we would learn the power of choices, that goes a long way with children's behaviors, because it invites them into the decision. It doesn't put yourself up against them. And so again, I encourage you just to experiment with it and see what happens. We had a dad here that his daughter, anytime she got somewhere, what she would do is she'd kick her shoes off. And usually they'd go flying, and he'd have to go and try to find the shoes and then get them on her. And it was just one big hassle as she's getting those shoes on. And so he'd heard this thing about offering choices, about enforceable statements. And so he decided he's going to give it a try. So he brought her to Bible class. And of course, the first thing she did was she sat down and kicked her shoes off. She's about 4 years old at the time. And so whenever he came to get her, there she is. She runs to the door. She doesn't have her shoes on. And so rather than run in and try to get him, he stopped himself and he said, "No, I'm going to do this differently. I'll be happy to take you to see Mom when you have your shoes back on." He said she stopped, looked up like that, and then she ran back and she found her shoes. She got those things on. She said, "Okay, I'm ready." Off they went. They get into the auditorium. They sit down in the auditorium. First thing she did was kick her shoes off. Of course, they go flying a couple of pews down the aisle down there. But they get through the assembly. Well, after the assembly was over with, she wanted to go see some of her friends. So he decided, "I'm going to try this again." He said, "Well, I'll be happy to take you to go play with your friends when your shoes are back on." So she stopped. And then she got down under the pew and she found her shoes and she sat down and she put them on. She says, "Okay, I'm ready to go." And off they went. He said that's the first Sunday that they had come that he didn't have a battle with that kid in the last couple of months. It is that inviting them into those decisions rather than fighting them over those decisions. What about whenever misbehavior takes place? Now, I know that there are some places, y'all have seen the things where up on the board, each kid has a green spot, a yellow spot, and a red spot, right? And everybody starts on green, and as long as everyone has good behavior, then everybody stays on green. But just as soon as somebody, does something that they've got to go put their yellow marker up there, and then if they ever get to the red, then the teacher means business and something's going to happen. I know of some Bible classes that have used that. What's the problem with that?
Too many chances to mess around.
How many chances are in that room? If there are 10 kids in that room, there are 30 opportunities for misbehavior before the teacher does something serious about it. That's a lot of misbehavior.
You only get one.
Yeah. And so really the better thing is to go ahead and handle problem behavior when it takes place. No chances. Now we're going to do it lovingly. We're going to start with the empathetic statement. "Oh, man." Now in school, Angela, she was required, because it was the school policy, to use the chart. The yellow, red, the green, yellow, red. And they actually had a green, they had a yellow, and then they had the red. And then if the red got moved, then they had to go to the principal's office. And so they had, 20 times 4, 80 chances for these different things. But anyway, she got to the point, did you know that if you'll use the empathetic statement every single time, it will actually condition the child to realize that a significant learning opportunity has just taken place. At the beginning of the year, she would always start with, "Oh, man, Johnny, go move your card." She'd have to explain what he did. By the time Christmas came around, she would go, "Oh, man." And then all the kids would pop up because they want to know who it was that got in trouble. And she'd say, "Sally, you're going to have to go change your card because," and she would explain it. By the time the spring got there, she said she'd be sitting at her desk, she'd be doing something, the kids would be doing something, and she'd go, "Oh, man." Well, the guilty party got up, went over, changed their card, came back and sat down. Kids know. So again, empathetic statement, wonderful thing. That's sometimes when misbehavior takes place, if you want to handle it right on the spot, all you got to do is, "Oh, man." Now, if you're like my daughter, that would crush her. If you're like my son, what are you going to do about it? He's the one that we could beat all day long. He would never. My daughter, you just had to look at her the wrong way. And if you said, oh, man.
That was my kids. It's just gonna
crushed.
prick it.
Yeah. So that's one thing you do is you learn the kids. You learn which ones react to different things. And some of them, the aw man, that'll do it. Secondly, allow consequences to do the teaching as much as possible. So little Johnny, he's over here and he's coloring on his paper and he sees Julie's paper over here and he takes his crayon and he on it like that. What do you do?
Let the kid know it.
That's right. Beat up on him, give him a black eye, bloody nose.
You have to be respectful.
You go, oh man, let Johnny take care. Johnny wasn't very nice coloring on the paper. What are you going to do about it? You turn it back over to him. What are you going to do about it? You let consequences do the teaching because embarrassment is a wonderful behavior management technique. It's done with mercy and with grace and with love. And so maybe Johnny has to go and get Julie a new piece of paper. Maybe he has to, whatever it is that he has to do.
Say he's sorry.
Maybe he has to say he's sorry. So you let the consequences do the teaching. You know, logical consequences are best. Child marks on the table. What's the logical consequence?
You have to clean it up.
He cleans it up. I've known a teacher that, John, look at what you did. And then they go and they get the towels and they get the stuff and they're wiping it all up while the kids are running. No. Oh, man, Johnny, that table, our janitors don't get paid to clean these off like that. Go get the towels, go get the water, clean that off for them. Then you give the problem back to the child. Again, you know, oh, this is so sad. What do you need to do to make Julie feel better? And let them be a part of that problem-solving process. Let them be a part of thinking through. Now, you may have to come up with some ideas to help the child out, you know, if they can't come up with anything, but you're not going to let them off the hook. And so you let the child be part of the process. But again, always using those empathetic statements, because that's what kicks it in. What about kids who are under 3? See, kids under 3 are a special case because,
You can pick them up.
okay, there's number 1. You can change the child's location. What else can you do?
Distract.
Yeah. You can bring their attention over this. Really, with children under the age of 3, you only got about 3 different options. You either change the child's location, you change the object's location, or you change the teacher's location. And depending on the situation, you got to decide which one is best. You either change the child's location, the object's location, or the teacher's location. If the child's over here throwing a fit, now you don't want to leave them unattended. You're always going to have, you know, make sure safety and all that is underway. But teacher may come over here and just really spend time with these kids. Change the teacher's location. If it's the object, whack, hit that kid over the head with the truck. Oh man, time to put the truck away. We can get it back out later when you can be sweet. You know, oh man, it looks like you're not acting very sweet with Charlie today. You need to sit over here today. And so you change locations with those kids. The last one that I'm going to talk about is called recovery time. In recovery time, some people have used timeout for a long time. Timeout is okay. Timeout, though, tends to be used in a punitive way. Child does something that's not good, and so they go, why don't you go sit in the corner? And we're going to turn the timer on, and you know, you can come back here just a little bit. But if you're not careful, timeout becomes a way to punish a child, or so you don't have to deal with him. All right. Recovery is a similar kind of thing, but what recovery does, isn't it true that for some kids, they just need to be able to get their act back together? Maybe they did something and they may have even acted out without thinking, and they just need some time to recover a little bit. So that's what recovery time is. And recovery is, it's very significant because here's the message it's given to the child. There are good minutes and there are bad minutes. Every good minute, I want you right here with me because I love you and I care about you and I enjoy having you with me. Every bad minute needs to be taking place someplace else, but I want you right back here as soon as you can be sweet. And that's the message that's given. I want you here. This is the place where you belong, and I love you, and I want you right here. And so Johnny hits, Julie over the head with the truck. Oh man, Johnny, looks like a little recovery time needs to go on here. Why don't you go right over there, and I want you back right over here as soon as you can be sweet. Oh, but I can be sweet now. Oh, I think maybe you can, but I really need you to go over there for just a moment and give yourself a time to kind of get recovery, and then you can come right back over here as soon as you can be sweet. You hear the message? That behavior is inappropriate. I care about you and this class too much to allow that to take place, and I want you here with me. Now, recovery, though, needs to have some steps, because recovery sometimes will work in a chair in the room with you. Sometimes that doesn't work. So sometimes it works. Okay, that's number one, a chair in the room. The next step may be a chair right outside the room. Now, a chair right outside the room, you got to make sure you got plenty of people who are making sure there's safety and security and stuff like that taking place. And so if you got deacons who are roaming the halls, or you got, coordinators, something like that, that really works well there, because you don't want a child out there by themselves. Understand the safety part of it. But they sit right out in the hall. But I want you right back in here as soon as you can be sweet. And some kids, they'll go out there and they'll fume. Well, that's okay. That's all right. They're working through their problem. You're allowed to keep teaching. And as soon as they can be sweet, they come back in. Sometimes, and this has happened here a few times, whenever a child is just so out of control that they can't be in the class anymore. There have been times that people have found me sitting out in the foyer on the pew with the child, waiting for them to feel like they can be sweet again. So sometimes it's one in the room, sometimes it's right outside the room, sometimes it may be in a supervised area away from the room, but I want you to be sweet. I want you back as soon as you can be sweet. Then the fourth option is maybe you can sit with your parents, and maybe you can come back with us next time. So it's kind of a progressive thing. But what the child hears is, I want you to be sweet. Now, let's say that Johnny hits Julie over the head with the truck. He has to go over there and sit there. Now, when he comes back to be sweet, what do you tell him? Yeah. Love on him, give him a big hug. Oh, I'm so glad you're back over here, because this is where I wanted you to be. Some of us are real tempted now. Are you going to do that again? What did you learn? I'll guarantee you, if you ask a child what did they learn, they will prove to you they didn't learn a thing. And so he said, oh, I'm so glad you're back over here. So glad you can be sweet now. You go out in the foyer and they come back. Because that's what I'll ask the child. Do you think you can be sweet now? And they'll be honest with me. No, I don't think so. Okay. Well, we can sit out here for a little while longer. Now, do you think you can be sweet? Yeah, I guess so. Then we'll go try it again. Now, if you send them out, one of the things you want to make sure that you do is make sure that you're having just as much fun with the kids as you possibly can. You be more energetic and more excited and more not affectionate, but more effective in everything that you're doing, so that that child understands what they're missing, because of the consequences that come whenever they can't be sweet. That's kind of that last step in order to help a child learn how to control their own behavior, focus on their own behavior, because what it helps them understand is every bad moment makes it a bad moment for me. Every good moment makes it a good moment for me. And that's ultimately the lesson we want them to learn, isn't it? Other thoughts, comments, gripes, concerns, complaints? No, not really. What do you do about parents who don't support you?
I send them to you.
What did you say?
We send them to him.
Oh.
That's an important step. You make sure that your leadership is on board with whatever it is that you're talking about in order to keep good behavior, because they've got to have your back. This is what we do to help your child. And the elders need to be able to answer that and say, well, we trust what she's doing. The other thing is, you may have to work with parents. I've known of teachers that said, I want your child to grow up to be responsible, and have good behavior just as much as you do. And so here's some things that we do in class to help them learn how to do that and to help get them on board with this is what we're doing. And that's where having some leadership that's willing to help with that is also very good to do. So your answer was sarcastic, but it was a good one. Oh, you didn't intend it to be a sarcastic, did you?
No, I meant it. I don't feel like it is my job to manage their behavior, but I am not their disciplinarian.
Right.
That's the parent's job. And so I put that in the parents' court. And if the parents aren't there, whoever is representing them, or the leadership that, I'm not spanking anybody's child, I'm not, that kind of thing. And so I mean, we do manage behavior, and there is negative consequences in a way, but it's not, like, I take you out and give you licks or put a dunce cap on your head or grab you by the hair, the things that I experienced in German schools, that if your parents found out, then you got spanked again. At least in the German system. Right. I was the good kid who didn't get in trouble, but it was terrifying seeing it happen to other people. But I like that with this, there's no guilt or shame. I think that guilt and shame there is natural guilt and shame, but I like how it's not used to blackmail children.
It is not intended to be punitive in the least.
Yes.
It is not
just training.
It is not to cause the kid any kind of bad feelings other than what they may feel within themselves.
Yeah.
What it's doing is you're inviting that child to participate with you in good behavior. See, what that means is we're all teachers. We're all teachers, whether it's in a classroom or whether it's outside the classroom. They need to see us with good behavior inside the classroom and outside the classroom. They need to see us in the assemblies every chance that we get. They need to see us coming to class during those times that we aren't teaching. They need to see us the way we interact with people and how we're kind and how we're compassionate and how we're loving. They need to see us when they see us in the store or they see us at a ball game or they see us someplace else as being those individuals who are displaying that behavior that we're asking them to participate in. Because it's really hard to have that disconnect between what you're asking them to do in one location, but then what you're doing in another location. And so it's always inviting them into this good behavior, being a good model of it first. This is how I take care of me. This is how I obey God and how I show God's love. Now I'm inviting you to do the same thing. And when that doesn't happen, sometimes I feel bad. Sometimes I don't feel things are right. But I want you to understand there's always a chance to come back. There's always a chance to find forgiveness and grace in this place. So I hope something in there, some little gem or nugget was helpful. Like I said, experiment with it. Experiment with choices within limits. Experiment with the enforceable statements. I got to tell you, I just, I would tell you Angela's favorite love and logic technique, but it's much more of a parenting technique, and it takes a lot of drama. But my favorite technique, and it works with just about everybody, is enforceable statements. Because I can control me, and I can ask you to participate with me in some things. So I told you, there's they are. So here's the packet. This is everything we talked about today and so much more. So, like I said.
Do you have the videos referenced that you showed that have the attention getters and such?
No, I don't. All I did was go to YouTube and just
Yeah,
put
that's what I
attention getters.
usually do too. And then
Yeah.
I usually spend way too much time on there watching them all.
Exactly.
Right, or the other, 50 notifications you have on.
Yeah, I just ignore all of those.
I will tell you about these up here. You can make, what you want to going and finding clip art, finding things like that online. I haven't found it, I meant to check and I didn't before we came in here. These were actually made on a program called Board Maker. And it's one that we've had forever here. but it's got lots of different lots of different images depending on what you're trying to do. And it was really intended and meant for public school settings. And so there's all sorts of images, whether you're trying to do something with respect or sharing or how you study, or so there's lots of different images and things. Like I said, I haven't looked lately to see, especially in the age of Google, and you can go and look for whatever image you want to, whether Boardmaker is still even out there. I just know that this is what we made them with because the images all are similar and are very simple and are very self-explanatory. So Boardmaker is a wonderful thing, whether you're making some kind of a behavior chart or something like that for focus, whether it's a specific activity that you're trying to do, whether you're trying to do a rebus story, where you're putting in the pictures in some different places as you're telling the story. Boardmakers is really good anytime you're trying to do something visually oriented. The other thing that would be helpful there is if you've not used the program called Canva, you need to make Canva your friend.
Canva.
Canva.
Is that better?
CANVA.
Just a little, yeah.
CANVA. And let me tell you the neat thing about Canva. Canva loves educational institutions. And so if you can get a subscription through an educational institution, whether it be a school or a church, some nonprofit, then they provide a certain number of licenses for that organization for free for the pro version. So you get everything they've got. But the neat thing about Canva is it's got lots of different formats of things, whether you're looking for a Facebook post or you're looking for a PowerPoint. This slide was made with Canva because it'll give ideas and suggestions on making something that's visually appealing, especially for those of us who can't tell colors that go together any better. I mean, I have to have Angela dress me because I've tried and she says, no, it doesn't go. And so it's really good about helping to do those designs and coming up with ideas. And so Canva is, like I said, there is a free version of it for anybody that wants to use it, but there is also a pro level to it that they give to educational institutions, nonprofits for free. So it is a real helpful deal. So. All right, thank you all so much.
Thank you.
I appreciate the time today.
Appreciate all your effort.
And, listen, Andrea, for somebody who has never made a house of cards
It's
before,
pretty good.
see what I'm really disappointed in, because I left you plenty of choices for how you're going to do it. Because, Elaine, she did a kind of a bunker kind of mentality. You did yours very vulnerable.
As many as you want, yeah, mine's for them all.
That's right. What Angela was looking forward to, and she wished she could have been here to see some of this stuff, but she wanted to see some people actually start taking them and tearing them, folding them, interlocking them and stuff like that. All the different choices. You can talk about choices.
I didn't know we were allowed to deform your cards.
Yeah, see, you made several rules for yourself that were not rules. All I said was to make a house of cards.
Yes, that's interesting.
So you didn't say not glue, so therefore glue was fair game.
Glue was okay. Tape was okay if you could find some. Yeah, licking them.
I have to hide tape at my house even now.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
My Christmas
Thank
tape
you.
is in a hidden spot where no one knows.